The look on Brenda's face when I told her I wouldn't be clearing her driveway, man. That told me everything I needed to know about who she thought I was. It was like the temperature dropped another 10 degrees just from her glare. There she was standing on my porch that February morning in Boulder, Colorado, wrapped up in a parka that probably cost more than my first truck breath, shooting out in little angry clouds like the weather itself was mad. Honestly, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. "What did you just say?" Her voice actually climbed a full octave like she couldn't believe I'd dare tell her no. I was just leaning in my doorway, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, letting the steam fog up my glasses a bit. I said, "Brenda, I'm not clearing your driveway. Or anybody else's in the HOA, for that matter." She whipped out her phone so fast I thought she was about to call the cops. The HOA covenant clearly states that all homeowners are responsible for maintaining the common areas adjacent to their properties during weather events. That includes clearing snow from the main thoroughfare when it exceeds 6 inches. She looked so proud of herself, like she'd memorized the rule book just for this moment. I took a sip of coffee. "That's for common areas, Brenda. Your private driveway isn't a common area." Her cheeks went red, wasn't from the cold. "Don't play semantics with me, Kyle. You know perfectly well that during severe weather events, community members are expected to help one another. It's called being neighborly." I almost laughed. Neighborly would be asking nicely, not demanding I show up at 7 in the morning to clear 15 driveways because the HOA failed to arrange proper snow removal. She pressed her lips together, thin-line white knuckles. "The board will be hearing about this. We'll be having an emergency meeting this evening at my house, 6 sharp. I expect you to attend." "Can't." Got work. That didn't sit well with her. "This is more important than your little business, Kyle." 6. Be there. She turned, picked her way down my steps. Nearly slipped twice, which I admit I did not feel too guilty about since I hadn't cleared the snow. I watched her stomp back across 3 streets worth of powder boots crunching in the 8 inches that fell overnight. "Name's Kyle Zanakis. I'd been living in Ridgemont Hills 3 years. Bought my not-too-fancy house with savings from my years as a project manager, then ditched the corporate nonsense and started my own company with 2 buddies. Commercial snow removal, landscaping, property maintenance. But here's the part Brenda and the rest of the board never figured out. My company, Zanakis Property Services, owns Alpine Peak Plowing, the only outfit licensed to operate commercial plows on private roads around Boulder. We bought them out when the owner retired. Kept the name for business reasons. Nobody in the neighborhood knew. Kept my truck unmarked, parked it in the garage, left for work before dawn. Most neighbors figured I did construction. I never corrected them." Now the irony. The HOA had just fired Alpine Peak 2 months before December. Brenda told everyone they were overpaying. Claimed she'd find a better deal. Spoiler, she couldn't. There is no other deal. All the local companies turned them down flat. I know because those companies called me asking if they could rent my equipment for the job. I told them the rates. They laughed, said no thanks. So the HOA, they just gave up, figured the homeowners could do it themselves. It worked when it barely snowed, but after that last storm with the roads buried and another coming, people were desperate. The city wouldn't plow private roads. The HOA was out of options. I cleared my own driveway, headed to the office, managed crews running ragged all over town. By 4, Marcus, my partner, called. "Some lady named Brenda Patterson keeps blowing up the phones, wants emergency snow removal for Ridgemont Hills. Offered half our standard rate. Told her no. She's getting mad, threatening to call the city, report us for not helping." I just shook my head. "Let her. Save any voicemails. Save any..." That night I made a point of going to Brenda's meeting. Walked into a living room packed with board members and neighbors, everybody bundled up, some shooting. Me looks like I'd run over their dog. Donald, the board president, got right to it. "Brenda says you're refusing to help with snow removal. We think all able-bodied homeowners should help. My driveway's clear, my sidewalk's clear." "What else do you want?" I asked. Brenda piped up. "Be a team player, Kyle. When you bought here, you agreed to help in emergencies. I asked to see it in writing, show me the covenant." Donald pointed to some clause about maintaining common areas, but that doesn't cover private driveways. Linda, the treasurer, said, "The roads belong to all of us, so hire a company," I said. The room went quiet. Brenda flushed. "We're working on it. In the meantime, everyone pitches in." You fired Alpine Peak 2 months ago, I said. Not my problem. Donald was suspicious. How did I know that meeting minutes are public, Don? Things got heated. Donald finally threatened fines $100 a day for not helping. I said, you can't force people to do manual labor. That's not how this works. Linda waved some legal advice around, but I told them to try if they wanted to see them in court. I stood to go. Brenda tried to block me. You're obligated, I cut her off. I'm obligated to the contract I signed not to work for free. Nowhere does it say I'm your labor force. She yelled, we're trying to save the community money. I told her, you made everyone responsible for hundreds of yards of road every snowstorm while working full-time and running their own houses. Other communities hire professionals. Yours made a mistake and wants everyone else to pay for it. I left coat over my arm, hearing whispers and angry voices behind me. Back home, snow falling, I watched from my window. Thought about how this mess would play out. The next day, Donald texted, clear one section, we'll drop the fine. I ignored it. Cleared my driveway, watched neighbors struggle with shovels. At the office, chaos everywhere, calls, new storms rolling in. Marcus caught me at 4, handed me a tablet with an email. Brenda. Again, this time all formal. We'd like to re-engage Alpine Peak Plowing, provided you offer competitive pricing. I replied as myself laid it out. Alpine Peak's ours now rates are 12% higher than last year. Take it or leave it. Brenda called, voice cold as the snow outside. You own Alpine Peak. That's a conflict of interest. I explained Linda's husband does landscaping for the HOA. Nothing in the rules says a homeowner can't own a service company. It's business. She threatened to take it to the board. I gave her until Friday at 5 to decide. Another storm was coming. They didn't have a choice. That night, what was supposed to be a board meeting was basically a town hall. Packed. Brenda accused me of profiteering. I laid out the costs, showed rates were fair. Linda backed me up with numbers. Most folks started to realize what had happened. A neighbor asked why I didn't offer my services sooner. I told them straight, I keep my work life and home life separate. When they demanded I work for free, threatened fines, it got personal. Board asked for time. I gave them until Friday, then I'd pull the offer. Thursday. Donald came by looking beat. Apologized for Brenda, for the board, for the threats. Asked for a discount. I said fine 5%, but you sign a 2-year contract, pay in 15 days. And Brenda apologizes in public for treating homeowners like free labor. Donald didn't like it, but agreed to try. Friday afternoon, Linda emailed the board, agreed. Brenda's apology was the most half-hearted thing I've ever read, but it did the job. Saturday, my crews rolled in, plowed every street by 9:30. Neighbors came out, took photos, brought donuts, said thanks. The biggest storm of the year hit the next day. My team cleared it all on time. No complaints. Then came the certified letter from Brenda alleging conflict of interest, fraud, all sorts of nonsense. My lawyer, Patricia, laughed it off. Brenda had acted alone, no board approval. At the emergency meeting, Patricia made it clear there was no case. The board dropped the complaint, apologized again. Brenda kept up the harassment, filing complaints about my truck, my business, a mailbox, all tossed out. The breaking point, another snow, another storm. Brenda parked her car sideways, blocked our plow. Tony, my guy, called, couldn't get in. I showed up, told her to move. She refused. Donald showed up, called an emergency board vote, authorized police if she didn't move. Faced with the whole neighborhood watching, she caved. That night, the board voted to remove her. Even worse for her, an audit revealed she'd been writing herself checks, embezzling over 30 grand from the HOA. Police arrested her right there in her fancy coat. She pled guilty, lost her house, got probation. The HOA moved on. The board changed hands. My company picked up the summer landscaping contract. The new folks paid on time, said thank you, kept drama to a minimum. I kept my head down, kept work and life separate again. Most folks didn't ask about the past. If they did, I just smiled and changed the subject. Every once in a while, a neighbor would wave, thank me for keeping the roads clear, say it made a difference. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. The big lesson: you can't hide who you are forever, not if you want peace. Boundaries matter. So does grace, and so does accountability. Brenda's story is what happens when power goes unchecked. Mine. Just a reminder that sometimes doing your job well, refusing to be bullied or manipulated, ends up being the best revenge. Justice doesn't always come in big dramatic waves. Sometimes it looks like a plowed street after a storm. And here's what I wonder, where do you draw the line between helping out and being taken advantage of? Was I right to hold my ground, or should I have just sucked it up for the community? Drop your thoughts or your own stories below. Because honestly, I think every neighborhood's got a Brenda. And every one of us eventually learns good fences and clear roads make good neighbors.